When it comes to payoffs, Mushoku Tensei does a very, very good job at that, especially when it comes to characters. The development in this series is phenomenal with every single character. And when you get a season like this, which covers up the school arc, it's a little bit of a slower arc compared to the rest of the story, more or less. I always compared this series to like a McDonald's M, I guess, if that makes sense, where you've got your build up, your climax, your development, which is the dip to most people, and it builds up again to that climax, which will be core 2 of this season. But with everything going on in Sylphie land, this episode was a perfect wrap up for that particular arc. And obviously we have one more episode to conclude it all up and put it together and ship us out till April. But with that all being said, let's talk about today's episode, since it is one of the most hyped episodes of the series, more or less, obviously, if you're not, excluding season 1. So we begin in the beginning, and there's Rudis pretty much contemplating anything he thinks about life anymore, especially now that he knows that Fitz is a woman. And he's going about the hallways, and who do we see right off the bat? Luke. Good old cousin Luke Grey Rat. And he pretty much explains that, when you talk about Fitz, and that Rudis is coming off of the fact that, he has no intention of, like, blowing out Fitz's cover or anything like that. He intends to keep it a secret, and that he's also afraid to challenge Luke because, well, let's be honest here. He's probably not necessarily afraid, but he knows Luke is decent with a sword, and he's a family member, and he's a Grey Rat, so he's probably decent with, sword combat. So he tries to avoid that violence. And, he tells him, reassures him one more time, he's no intention of, going against Fitz. And so we fast forward to Fitz and the princess and Luke in the combers, the little chamber, I guess. And, Fitz just kind of wants to know the princess wants to talk about. So we get to Luke and, her glaring him down. And obviously Luke was kind of suspicious of Rudis. And that the fact that Rudis ran into, the princess and Luke at downtown, and obviously that's when the princess was, covered up as Fitz herself. And the princess pretty much, tells Fitz that, he knows now. He's touched you, he knows everything. And that the princess, she admires Rudis's devotion to the fact that he's not going to rat out Fitz. And the princess is like, I'm really sick of looking at this. Okay, what do you want to do? She's like giving her these options, especially to the fact that she doesn't see her, quote unquote, as just a slave, but a friend. So she wants her to, speak up and do what she feels is right. So she grabs, Fitz's hand and, reassures her, I will help you as long as you're telling me the truth, pretty much. And comes back on the fact of, you've been protecting me for ages now, and, what do you want to do right now? And of course, she reminisces for a moment, she's not that she's having a bad time or anything protecting the princess, but she wants to be the Rudy. And so the princess retorts, but at the same time, Sylphie also goes to the point of, if he doesn't remember who I am, I don't think I'll ever recover, so she wants to make sure that it's going to be a for sure fire plan. Now, obviously the princess thinks she just introduces herself as she is, that it'll probably work. However, Sylphie obviously wants to make sure 100% works. So they kind of ask her about, what was something that really stuck out to you, some memories back in the day. So she goes about the time, when she was bullied and that Sylphie, saved him, and then things start getting a little more weird, and starts telling him about how Rudy thought she was a boy, and then that pretty much they go to the house when he forced her to undress to take a bath, and you could just see the looks on the princess and Luke's faces. Like, Luke's just like completely avoiding the scenario, and the princess is just giving her this oh my god type of look, and it's just so funny and absolutely great. And we get back to the chambers, and the princess asks for sure, like, what kind of relationship do you want to have with Rudy? And so she gives her this nice example of the fact that Rudis can be kind of shameful, and he's gonna ask how many kids that she wants. And so Sylphie replies with a, well, how many kids do you want to put in me? And the princess's face right here, exact meme, straight meme of look of, oh my god. Just look, given the nice shameful look he always does. And so we go back to Sylphie's perspective, and he'll say, like lots, like, and then she'll say lots too, and she's got this cute little like gleeful he type of girl maneuver going on, and just getting all giddy, and it's absolutely adorable. And so we go back to the princess, and she's like, well, if that's your plan, this is gonna only work depending on your efforts. And there's Sylphie like groping this vase and hugging it like it's Rudis, and it is absolutely freaking hilarious and to die for. Really glad they added this comedic-esque scenes to this whole scene itself, and it just makes it that much better. Like, it goes over the top for that. And so the princess says, okay, so we're going to make a plan. And if you don't follow my plan, it doesn't work, you can no longer see Rudis. And so she's going to tell her the plan. So she tells her the plan. And we fast forward to the next day or later that afternoon, who knows exactly specifically. And Rudis is at lunch with Bodigadi and Zenoba and Juliet. And so she comes up and is like, I got something we need to talk about in private. So they walk away elsewhere, and she asks Rudis her a favor, and Rudis, of course, agrees, saying, he'd do anything for her. And that's, to be more specific, he would shoot down a flying fortress, which is, pretty big deal, So they go, and she explains what the thing is, that the princess wants this flower that grows deep in the forest of hail, and that it's really hard to get to, and it's kind of more or less to prove a point of just how good her slaves are, I guess, supposedly, or her servants. And so Rudis is giving off ideas like how they could hire somebody or have Soldart's group come and help, but obviously Sylphie wants just those two to do it because that is the plan. And she, telling him, how these two could just pull it off together. And he's like, oh, it's a valid point. So they go on the journey. And Sylphie's like, I don't know how to repay you. And obviously he's doing this as a favor, so he doesn't want anything in payment. But she offers it again. And he's like, well, I don't come cheap. And she's got this smile on her face. And she's like, yeah, I figured as much. But let's keep going, because she's getting a little embarrassed, obviously, this whole plan. Because it's a slightly embarrassing plan, and who knows if it's going to work. So Sylphie's got a lot on her mind, right? And so they're going through this huge snow pile, and Rudis is melting away the path, just melting it away, doing what he does best, being an ass, like a smart ass adventurer, badass motherfucker. And so Sylphie's going in with the plan, but at the same time we don't really know it's part of the plan, how she's talking about the fact that she's only really ever used her beginner one, and she wants to try Rudis's out. So Rudis gives her the staff, and she's talking about how big it is, and it's a kind of a sexual play, but at the same time, Rudis is kind of thinking back about how he got it as a gift when he was 10, and it was meant to last him his whole life, type of feel. And while Rudis is worrying about that, Sylphie puts the play into action, summons these rain clouds with the ring, which in the source material, Rudis pretty much can pick this out that it's kind of a trap. But in the book, there is also mages helping out Sylphie in the background. But, so Rudis is talking about getting rid of the rain, and while he's trying to get rid of the rain, Sylphie reinforces it with the staff, and Rudis kind of picks up something's going on, but Sylphie kind of gives the, maybe it's because your staff is gone thing, and so they go take shelter in a cave after they've gotten rained on now. And Rudis is picking up, things have been weird. The rain came off, Fitz hired me and not anyone else. And the fact that the clouds moved in too quickly. So, Rudis is no dummy. He's been on a lot of adventures. And while they're undressing, Rudis is undressing specifically so they don't get a cold from the rain, he respectively knows that obviously Fitz is a woman, and so he wants to be respectful and not change in front of her. And so Rudis is trying to be, a good boy and tell her, that he was told a long time ago that it's taboo for young elves to show their skin. And so Rudis says, use magic, dry your clothes off, I'll turn around, and everything will be fine. However, she denies this, and he says, please at least change clothes. I don't want you getting sick or anything, and I want you to be fine. So Rudis is walking away so she can do that, and she grabs his hand immediately, right? Like, not letting go. And so Sylphie pretty much says, I need you to take my clothes off because I can't do it myself because I'll die. So Rudis starts removing, the jacket and things like that. And he's starting to notice small details, like, her ears blushing. And he remembers the moment like this happening when they were kids. And it starts all coming back to him. And Sylphie's just in her underwear and tank top at this point. And obviously there's one thing left, and that's her glasses, besides obviously her undergarments. And he takes off her glasses, and instantly he recognizes her. He says, hey, Fitz? And, she replies, and he says, are you Sylphie by chance? And of course she starts bawling because she realizes that what they did worked, and she's grasped him so hard, right? Finally, after a year, she can at least admit to herself who she is, and we get this nice shadow hug that is absolutely to die for. Just the emotion in this scene is so much build up, like we haven't seen her in like a season and a half, and what we do get of her is not her, and she finally was able to say it. And of course Rudis notices that she's still a crybaby, and they hug, and she never wants to let him go, and how hard she worked this whole time just to be able to see him as she was, to try to find him. And they look at each other in this most loving eyes, and she tells him how much she loves him, and she's always loved him, and she'll never love him, and he should never leave ever again. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. Obviously this one wasn't able to describe as much, because even though there is a lot going on, most of this episode speaks for itself, and it's one that I feel everybody knew, obviously, even not just light novel and web novel readers, but everybody obviously seen coming. It's so beautiful. It was well paced, well coming. There is only one gripe I had, which was, I think everybody's noticed at this point in the lunchroom, how everybody was kind of still except for Sylphie and Rudis, which is kind of awkward. But if that's your biggest gripe you have, whoop-de-frickin-do, So honestly, one of my favorite albums, oh my gosh, episodes, and I'm very glad we finally had it. I cannot wait to conclude this next week and wait until April, which is gonna suck, but everybody needs to hang tight because that is one of the best arcs in this whole series. Oh my gosh, everybody should look forward to this. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It means a lot to me and helps the channel out. And if you're feeling very generous, hit that subscribe button. I know a lot of you are showing up more, and that means a lot to me to keep doing this for fun. I'm trying to get to that 1K goal and beyond, so we can keep doing this, and I can focus more onto this instead of, boring work. So, with that being said, this has been Squids, and thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you're all with me here for the finale of this season. It is going to be a banger. So, yeah, we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.